Welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast. Here is Munir Al-Azouzi from easymedicaldevice.com. And today we wanted to have some kind of feedback about how audits are going on within notified bodies. And for that, I have with me Martin Witte, who is working for TÜV SÜD, and he will help us to understand what went well, what maybe you should maybe adjust to have a better audit. So Martin, welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Munir. I'm happy to be back again.
No problem. So yeah, Martin was already on some episode of the podcast where we helped to understand how to have better audits within quality, regulatory affairs, etc. How audits are going on, so you can go and look back at those episodes. We talked also about significant change, which was a big topic also. So now we will, after MDR is live, now we'll talk more about what goes well and what goes wrong, maybe on that. But before that, Martin, can you just make a small introduction of maybe yourself or TÜV SÜD?
Sure. So I, Martin Witte, work for TÜV SÜD, as you already mentioned. Started with the organization in 2014 as an auditor and developed over time. And now I'm responsible for strategic business development. TÜV SÜD is a notified body under the MDR as well as under the IVDDR and among the biggest ones in this sector.
Great. So TÜV SÜD is, as you said, MDR, IVDR. We have more and more, 21, if I remember. I can't remember if it's the list, 21 notified bodies that are now MDR. I think during our last episode, it was like 18 or 17. So the beginning was like fast, but now it's growing every 2 months, maybe 1 or 2, etc. So it's there. So MDR is now live. So let's say MDR is live since the 26th of May 2021. We talked about the fact that there is not enough notified bodies, that there will be a catastrophe because a lot of products will be discontinued on the market, that medical device regulation is wrong, etc. So what is your kind of feedback now after a few months? So we are in beginning of August now. What is your feedback about this period, if I can say, after the date of application of EU MDR?
Yeah, so even though we all had this image of a horror story or a nightmare coming to us, I would say manufacturers as well as notified bodies up until now handled everything pretty well, given the circumstances. Yeah, so I'm pretty optimistic, and I'm also surprised in how well under these circumstances everything worked. Okay. I do, of course, see all the struggles we having, but I also want to make maybe sometimes a positive statement, and I'm actually more surprised than shocked.
No, I think it's correct. I'm also surprised because I mean, let's say that date of application of the 26th of May is applicable to some products only. There is a lot of products that are still under certification under MDD. We had some issues. I mean, at the consulting side, we had some issues with some manufacturers that said, "Oh, my importer doesn't want to distribute my product anymore because I miss this, I miss that." So the economic operators are playing also their role to stop products that are not compliant to the EU MDR, which is good. So there is those kind of issues, but out of that, there is not a big catastrophe. So as I've said, it's only for some products, not for every product. So let's see in future maybe how this is happening there. A pronostic for IVDR catastrophe also, or?
I think it's very interesting because I've heard the Commission talking about this and that they are analyzing the situation closely. And when they see that there is a need to postpone the IVDR, they will do it. Let's see. I think this is something you can really not predict.
Yeah, I mean, after we said many times that MDR cannot be postponed, and it was postponed, so we never know. So I suppose they will really analyze day after day and see really if this is the good time to do it or not. But let's look at that in the future. Okay, so mainly as I said, the topic of today is mainly that after a few months or maybe a year, because people were not starting to get audited by 26th of May 2021, but before, I suppose, as I've said, that you have some experience now with audits with medical device manufacturers and maybe discover a common issues that are happening within them. So, and maybe here the idea is, can we disclose those issues and maybe tell them, be ready on this, be ready on that, give them some tips maybe, so that, yeah, we are helping also notified bodies so that auditors, they will not see those issues again in future. Because, yeah, he will talk about general stuff, we'll not talk about detailed elements. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what are the most common issues? So if you have maybe a top 1, top 2, top 3, or issues that are really happening so that we can really look at that.
Yeah, so it's very interesting that when we talk about this from a more general perspective, and I know we go into some more details in the later headlines, if we look at the general MDR application, one thing very often goes wrong and creates problems, and that is actually the correct assignment of MDA, MDN, MDS, and MDT codes.
Okay.
And I get this because this is partly new and partly there is guidance missing. Yes, like with the classification. However, there is an MDCG document talking about application of MDA, MDN, MDS, and MDT codes. And if you consult with that, it might help you to correctly identify the applicable codes. What very interesting is that MDT codes are very often assigned totally wrong. Yeah, because it's not understood that maybe for a pacemaker, you do not need to cover all the technology codes that are in the supply chain, but it is an electronic device, yes, and it is sterile, yes, and others. But this is something where I think we can become better, and we can, in a more communicative approach, solve these things quicker. So this is the first thing.
So for this one, can we remind, did we need those kind of codes before within MDD, or it's the first time we are needing that with MDR?
Well, we had something similar, but the MDT codes, the technology codes in that degree were not there. Yeah, so we had some special codes under the MDD, and we have had, of course, the MD codes under the MDD. But to the extent it is present right now, it is new, and that's also justifies that there's, of course, a little bit of adjustment in the system to get used with it. Yeah.
So yeah, there is this MDCG guidance, the MDR codes guidance. I think we have now also the IVDR codes guidance for IVDR. Those codes are mainly, as you said, divided in MDA, MDN, MDS, and MDT. So MDA is for active devices, MDN is for non-active devices, MDT for technology. MDS is for, can you remind me what is it?
It's special technologies like sterilization or animal origin, human origin materials.
Or medicinal
so those are special codes.
Kind of,
yeah. So, and remember these codes. I do understand why manufacturers sometimes have a problem with it, because these codes are mainly introduced in order to assign the right individuals on the notified body side for the assessment and for the audit. That means that they are mainly for us.
Yeah.
And that's also the reason why when a manufacturer comes with a list of codes, we might interpret it differently, and that we decide, no, this is a different technology scope. And yeah.
So let's say, okay, I come to you with wrong codes, or you identify that they are wrong codes and then things. So I suppose this will also delay your evaluation, delay the assignments of person, and delay then the audit.
Yeah, and that is very critical, because if the assignment of individuals is not possible because of a wrong code, that will, of course, delay, first of all, the contractual processes, like the quotation and placing the order, and in the end, then also the audit, yes. But you need to plan with the relevant resources. And if you cannot plan with the relevant resources, how can you make a contract?
Okay. No, I think it's
so it is
good,
a very, very important initial thing to clarify.
Okay.
The codes as well as the classification. Yeah.
Okay. Something else?
Very interesting. A lot of companies, and this sometimes comes outside of Europe to play, are unfamiliar with what the manufacturer name is. That is very interesting. Yeah, that in some corporates, but also in smaller companies where they have subsidiaries, it's not clear who is the legal manufacturer.
Yeah.
And that is also something where there is a lot of discussion always. And sometimes you are having companies doing business in the name of a different company, and that creates some back and forth in the communication between the notified body and the customer. Yeah.
No, I think I saw that also. As I've said, I have customers also outside of Europe, and they are also confused when I tell them who is the legal manufacturer. I mean, what I try to do is to say, look at the label and look at the small plant, black plant, who is the name behind it? And this is normally the legal manufacturer. And
exactly.
They are always confused and say, oh, but I thought it was the Chinese company that I'm using as a supplier for my products, etc. No, because the Chinese company is not legally placing those products on the market. It's you who is placing those products on the market. So yeah. I agree that we have some education also to do on this kind of thing. But yeah, and there is this issue about OEM, OBL also that can be raised out of that, because they say, I am the legal manufacturer, but at the end, I'm just commercializing the products and I'm not taking care of anything related to manufacturing or whatever, which can be also an issue for EU MDR, because you have to have all the technical file, all the information
exactly.
For the product. Yeah. So which is maybe also something that people don't really understand. But yeah, I go with you on this one. I know that there is a lot of issues on that.
Yeah, and maybe also the complexity of the application forms. Yes, and that's also something we need to work on. So that's not always something the manufacturers need to work on, but that's also something that notified bodies need to approach, and maybe, also collaborate in identifying the right content for the application. So it is, of course, difficult because we don't want to give advices and we cannot consult, but sometimes elements in the application might not be that obvious to the other side of
I agree
the table. Yeah.
Another one on general, or we go on another topic?
No, that's basically it. I mean, we can talk a lot about basic UDI/IDI not being mentioned, but I think those elements have been addressed before, and
I think there is a kind of also a transition period that we have to apply here just to make the people understand, because it's a completely new thing. And I know that there are a lot of people that are confused. The American people are confused because they have a UDI code, but they don't have a basic UDI/IDI. So we ask them, what is your basic UDI/IDI? Say, what's that? What are we talking about? So they are, if I can say, conform because they already have UDI, but it's not the case. But yeah, UDI is also another point.
Connected to that is actually also, if basic UDI/IDI is there, so what is actually the product? What is the product a system, or what are we assessing here? And I really liked your video about procedure pack and system, with Eric. And if people watch that one, they also understand that this is a completely different universe again. And this often creates problems, especially in more complex medical devices, which manufacturers often put into one technical documentation and want to cover them with one application, but products might not fall under the same conformity assessment procedure. And that, of course, doesn't work. Yeah. And that is sometimes a struggle, especially in more complex systems. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. And this is something that, we have some adjustment to do, but I hope, we can help them also with this podcast to give them the right direction on what they have to do there. Okay, next one. What is your next topic about common issues?
Yeah, then clinical, huh? I mean,
clinical, I think is the biggest one for everyone. So yeah.
Yes. Apart from general, we also talk about clinical. And here, I must say I'm a little bit surprised. Okay. And I was really surprised about the feedback I got from our clinical reviewers and experts. And you might also want to link your video to that MDCG document that came out and where you mentioned that the CEAR template
Yeah.
that was published by the MDCG
Exactly.
is, of course, the foundation of the manufacturer's CER. This is something like, when we talk in technical terms, this is a specification.
Yeah.
You should take this into consideration. No, you not should. You must take this into consideration. And it is really surprising how often it is not taken into consideration, how often information is just missing, and how often we cannot trace certain elements that we have to document in the CEAR in the CER of the manufacturer. So as this document is out for quite a while now, this is now becoming a little bit surprising that there is not yet an adoption to this template. And this is concerning also because it delays.
We discussed about that, about the fact that, guys, this MDCG guidance was issued. It gives you the keys to, if I can say, pass any CECR audit. It gives you all the questions they will ask you. You can make maybe a mock inspection and just check that everything is really, that is mentioned, this guidance is there, etc. But from what you are saying, apparently, people are maybe thinking, oh, I am already an expert on clinical evaluation report with MDD, so it's fine, I can pass MDR. But there are still some changes here, so people have really to educate again themselves on some aspects of the MDR. And this one, as you've said, it's giving you all the keys. So if you pass this one, I'm not saying that by having the answers to all this one, you will have 100% chance to pass, but mainly 90% chance that everything is correct with that. There will maybe be the discussion on some elements, because I had some discussion on some of those elements there, but for the rest, it should be fine normally.
At least you get away from these administrative or formal things. Yeah, we are not talking about is the information there or not, or is information missing, but we are talking about the information, the content. I don't want notified body employees and manufacturers to discuss about format and templates and is information available. We all want them to talk about the content and decide about the safety of the device, because in the end, we need to make this decision and we need to make that assessment. So as long as we discuss about template and format, it will just delay that decision. And that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and I suppose that it's also frustrating for both parties, because at the end, both parties want to discuss about the product, but you are obliged, if I can say, to ask those questions about the formal elements, and manufacturer has to answer, even if they think it's nothing, it's just some kind of detail. But mainly, it's your duty, if I can say, to ask that. So for manufacturers, follow, if I can say, this guidance or these elements, and then you will go directly to the real question, to the product, instead of still talking about a point that is missing, or a chapter that is not right, or whatever that is not good on the template.
And maybe one thing to add here, the CEAR template is not exclusively for Class 2B and Class 2B implantable and Class 3 devices. Yeah, the CEAR template is for all devices. So the clinical evaluation of all devices needs to cover these elements, even though for some, the notified body, Class 1 devices, might never be involved. Still, the CER needs to provide the information required by the CEAR.
And it's something we discussed also with Basil Akrai, I remember, during our one podcast, because he said that the CEAR, as it came out, it's now also raised the bar for even Class 1 products or lower class products, because we ask you the same information as for Class 3 products. So it's like raising the bar for everything. So it's mainly something that is good, if I can say, in a certain way, but maybe also provide more work for the products that are Class 1, Class 1 there.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other topic?
Yeah, then I've gotten interesting feedback from our biocompatibility experts. And this is also something that might help some of the people out there. I do understand that from the biocompatibility side of things, maybe there were not too many changes, especially in regard to ISO 10993, because of the MDR.
Yeah.
Yet there are requirements in the MDR which might not be covered by 10993 related test reports created 2 years ago. And that is actually something we often see, that when assessments are supported by evidence coming from, let's say, 2-year-old biocompatibility data, some elements like CMR or endocrine substances or particle contamination are not addressed. And that is, of course, a problem. Yeah, if I have the full suite of test reports and I submit this and I believe, okay, I did this 1.5 years ago according to 10993 latest version and should comply with the MDR, but we cannot identify the specific requirements from the MDR, then we also start there a discussion. And the problem here is that when you need to do new testing, it will delay your approval significantly, because test laboratories might be booked out, and you have to perform the tests, which takes some time. Yeah, and this is something I've heard from our biocompatibility experts is happening quite frequently.
So here we are talking about the fact that the latest version of the 10993 is not including some of those requirements. And the laboratories don't know, because we ask the laboratories, can you make me the test following the 10993 for a class 2A product that is in contact for 60 minutes or more, etc. And then they will do the tests that are needed, but they will miss some of those. So we as a manufacturer should tell the laboratory, add those additional tests because we need that.
Exactly. You're the customer of the test laboratory. You're giving them the recipe for the meal you want. And if you miss main components, you will not have them on your plate. And that is really the problem here. And
I can also understand the manufacturers that say, okay, I'm following the 10993. Why? Maybe my stupid question will be, why the standard doesn't contain this requirement? Because it should be aligned with MDR, I suppose. So is this something that maybe we should update in the next version? Because it will help a lot of manufacturers to say, here is the list of tests. I will not need to think about that anymore because it's here.
I love your question, because this brings up a more or less philosophical discussion around regulation or regulations and standards. So what is superior and what follows what? And of course, regulation is always something that regulates something. Yeah. And following the regulation, standards are developed. And if you develop a standard in accordance to a regulation, then yes, I would say then you need to update your standard. But the standard also needs to cover a lot of regulations. Yeah, not only it doesn't need to cover regulations. It's actually more like there is experts talking about biocompatibility, knowing about it much more than I do, because I don't know anything about it, a little bit. But these people know what to focus on, but regulators might add something to this. And that's also the reason why when you get, for example, the harmonized standard in the appendix, you will find things that are missing. That is the nature of things. In those elements that are missing, you need to get active and you need to do something. And currently we have, of course, the situation and the problem that it's not clearly documented in the standards what MDR requirements are not covered.
Okay, so I think it's thank you for this one, because I think this is a trap there where many manufacturers will fall in, because as I've said, they are really following the standard and say, oh, I'm compliant to 10993, so I'm fine. But here, no, you are not, because there is still some elements that you have to follow. And please have a look at those ones for CMR, for the rest, so that for particles, so that you are really checking the compliance. So this is also, I think, a good exercise for the regulators to know exactly those kind of tips, if I can say, because this makes them expert in the area, those kind of tips so that they can do. But if we can have an update of some regulations or some standards can help also in that case. So it's not harmonized for now because we have some harmonized standards that were issued. This one, I can't remember if it was on the list of harmonized standards because there was a first batch that was released, but I think this one was not there.
I need to look it up.
Yeah, I need to look also. But you can look also there. There was a first batch of harmonized standards that were issued. I remember there was one on sterilization or other things. So look at that. But as soon as it is harmonized, then maybe there will be more information for you there.
At least it helps. Yeah,
at least it helps. Exactly. So, okay, we had our top 3, if I can say, regarding the issues. Yeah. Is there any advice, because people are now submitting their application, etc. They are waiting for the audit date, so in the meantime they are preparing. So what are some advice that you can give them during this preparation? What are the things that you say, okay, these things maybe you should, because during the audit you identify some issues and say these things maybe can help you to be more well prepared for an audit. So is there anything that you will advise manufacturers to prepare themselves for that?
Yeah, I think there is one thing I'd like to raise here. It is a discussion we've seen coming up more frequently in the last 3 to 6 months. And also in discussions with manufacturers, this came up a lot here in TÜV SÜD. It is the applicability of MDCG documents.
Okay.
And the reason why this is a big topic is those are guidance documents. Yeah? And guidance documents, and the Commission is always saying this, are not legally binding. And that is technically, so from a law science perspective, correct. Yeah, they are not legally binding. However, in the end, that doesn't make them unapplicable. Yeah, the point with this is the MDCG guidance documents are understood as the state-of-the-art interpretation of the MDR by the member states.
Yeah.
So when the member states agree on a definition, on an interpretation, on a state-of-the-art, how a certain topic in the MDR must be understood, then these member states logically would give this to their competent authorities, and they will check notified bodies if they use the MDCG documents and check against the MDCG documents with the manufacturers they are auditing. So connecting a little bit to the clinical topic I raised, the MDCG guidance documents are extremely important and they need to be considered. And we can, of course, start a philosophical discussion about, is it legally required or not? And if you decide not to apply an MDCG document, that is legally possible. But then you have to justify why you're doing this and how you achieve the same level or a superior level of safety, for example, to what was documented in the MDCG documents. And that makes it, of course, extremely difficult. And I'm not saying that it's not possible to have a different interpretation of a certain element in an MDCG document. But if you do so, you need to document it, and then you need to be able to justify it.
So,
but yes,
one question that maybe people will tell is the fact that in this period, actually, there is a MDCG guidance that is issued every day, every week. So at the end, it took me many months, if I can say, to prepare for my audits, arrive to the end, and then boom, an MDCG guidance arrived that's changed completely my focus, if I can say, to say I was going in the direction, but the MDCG says, no, you have to go in that direction. Yeah. So at the end, I'm here like, what the hell? What should I do here? What's the point here? So within your interpretation, so is it like from one day to another, I have to apply it? Or is there like a transition period, like what we are doing with standards, where we say, oh, you have maybe 2 or 3 years to implement that?
So there is no transition period, and that is also because of the technical discussion around, is it a regulation or is it a standard? No, it's not. So per definition, it doesn't have a transition period.
Okay.
Yet everybody in the ecosystem understands that you cannot switch something from one day to the other.
Yeah.
But now it's getting a bit shaky, but it shouldn't take too long, whatever
exactly,
that means. Yeah. I mean, if an MDCG document comes out, let's say the MDCG document for the CEAR template came out. Yeah. And now the notified bodies need to use this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, you cannot use it from the one day to the next day, but with this one, maybe you could, but you need to implement it in your quality management system. But doing it 2 years after publication is neither justifiable. Yeah. So it is a case-by-case decision, honestly. So it also depends on the impact it has. And sometimes also if that affects some risks or risk mitigation factors. So if it is addressing patient safety, the transition period you can take might be much shorter than to things that are more formal.
Okay. And we have also to clarify one thing is the fact that you are, as a notified body, obliged to verify following those MDCG guidances also. It's something that you have to do because mainly the EU Commission, the competent authority, will verify that when they will audit you.
Exactly. So our competent authority gets these MDCG documents, so to say, as part of their audit plan when they audit us. So if they audit us for compliance to these documents, then we logically need to audit our clients in order to comply to these guidance documents. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's something that is important to say just for manufacturers that maybe think, oh, they are too mean, those notified bodies, you see, they are auditing us on that, but it was just published 2 weeks ago, etc. So we didn't have time to implement. But it's not because they are mean, it's just because they have that on their quality management system and they have to audit you. And they will also get audited. And I suppose that you don't want to get a non-conformance because of that. So the idea here is, to really do your job on this.
And what you were just mentioning, maybe to add something there, if something is published today and in 3 weeks there is an audit and the auditor asks you, do you know of the MDCG document 2021 - I don't know what the next number will be, 7, and you answer, no, never heard of it.
This can be a problem.
For 3 weeks, that's maybe not the answer you would expect as an auditor, yeah?
Yeah, because you have to be, if I can say, you have to have this regulatory update system that is checking regularly what is happening. But maybe let's be on the side of the manufacturer. Maybe this is a frequency of 1 month and not of 3 weeks. So it can be also.
Okay, yeah, maybe the 3 weeks example is not the best, and not that people go crazy. Now we have to check it daily.
Exactly.
But there is also you can also get notifications when something is published. Yeah. And as all of us do, on social media, something is published and the next day the whole community knows it.
Exactly. And we discussed about that with one company, which is called Medboard. So Medboard is also a company that is making these regulatory updates and giving you notifications. So you can also go to Medboard and try to register to this company. They are doing all the regulatory updates, not only Europe, everywhere in the world. So this is something that is really helpful. Then I have maybe a more funny thing to ask you, because I got a lot of questions from some manufacturers, and I had also that question myself, because when I was working for corporate companies, we had to get auditors, etc. And the question was, can I invite auditors to a restaurant? Can I give them a gift? Can I, what is the limit of that I should not pass in terms of that? Because within my companies, there were a lot of meetings about this kind of question, and then some policies to say, no, you don't invite them because of this. There can be some corruption, that they will think there is a corruption here, etc. So what is on the other side, if I can say, on the notified body, what is the discussion you have related to that? The fact that when you arrive to a company, there will be maybe a bottle of champagne or whatever, and they give that to you. I have made a cartoon on that just to welcome Mr. Auditor with a lot of a spa, a jacuzzi, this and that. So what is the information that you can maybe provide to the manufacturers to say, this you don't have the right, but maybe this you have the rights to do?
Yeah. So I think this is a very complex topic because it also depends on what are the legal requirements in the country where the notified body is located. Then what does the quality management system of the company you're auditing is telling that organization in terms of compliance? And also we have, of course, compliance standards. And your example with, I get the president's suite in a hotel and then there is a magnum bottle of champagne, that's obviously not acceptable.
Okay.
And we have, of course, processes in place how to handle these kind of situations. For example, if you are in an audit situation and you get lunch served, then of course we can take that because that is part of that work there. So this is not something we would reject. If you serve lobster and caviar for lunch, then maybe we get in a little bit of an awkward situation and maybe that is not acceptable.
Okay.
So I think there is a very easy rule here. And I don't know how other notified body handle this or how people in general handle this, but I would say in general, if you feel awkward in a certain situation, then that is a very good indicator that something is not right.
Okay.
And yes, there are cultural differences between countries. And there is even cultural differences between countries like Germany and Austria in terms of what is acceptable in providing as a gift or as a dinner or something like that. And as long as you are aware of these cultural differences and also understand the other side, then I think you cannot do a lot of things wrong. Gifts, I wouldn't accept. Yeah, so
Okay.
gifts are really something. If at the end of the audit, someone is giving me a gift because I haven't given them a non-compliance, yeah, then I would create a huge non-compliance myself.
Okay.
So this is absolutely not acceptable.
Okay.
So anything related to the outcome of the audit is unacceptable. Yeah.
Great.
Oh, you don't get lunch because you've given us a non-conformity. Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I imagine, yeah, that some people will give you a lot of things just to say, oh, we are really nice with you. So at the end, please be nice with us also, etc. So yeah, it's not really working because as we said, you are also audited from your competent authority related to the audits that you are doing. So it's not like you are the kings, if I can say, on there. You are also doing your job and you are accredited for that. So it's mainly something that you have also to maintain. So it's why there is some of those rules that are happening here. So, but it's great. So thank you for this precision on that. So no bottle of champagne, no president's suite. So
please not.
Yeah.
If I
okay.
give it, yeah, no.
It's fine. Okay. So do you have maybe some information about TÜV SÜD? So are you still looking for some auditors?
Yes, so the ecosystem is growing. The regulatory affairs headcounts are growing. As the German authority once said, or the German Ministry of Health, the notified body resources increased by 400% over the last 3 years, I guess. And yes, this continues. So if people are interested in when possible, again, very international activity, also connected with traveling and getting insight into different manufacturers' approaches to compliance, I think working with a notified body is a very, very interesting career opportunity. So yes, we are looking for auditors, product specialists, and clinical experts. And if anybody outside feels that now is the time to make this move, I would strongly suggest to go to the TÜV SÜD website and check the career section.
Great. So thank you for that. And yeah, we need you as an auditor also. So don't hesitate to go and to get those kind of jobs. And as you mentioned, so this is something that gives you a lot of experience also. Being on that side can help you also when you will maybe come back to the manufacturer side to help them to be compliant also. So it's also a good thing. Okay. True. So then people can follow up with you directly on the website and go there. I think there will be the open position directly there.
Yep.
Good. So really thank you. So for people that are listening to this podcast or are watching this on the YouTube channel, don't hesitate to provide some likes, some comments also, just to say that you liked it. And if you have any question, please raise your question and I will send that directly to Martin if there is anything that he can answer, he can help us with. And if you have any other activities or you need some support, so please contact me at info@easymedicaldevice.com. info@easymedicaldevice.com. Okay, Martin, so really it was a pleasure to have you and I wish you a nice day.
Thank you very much and have a nice day. You too.
Bye.
Bye.